Hello and welcome to What the Luxe with me, Fred Moore.
And me, Anand Sharma.
Together we lead Matterform, a design consultancy specialising in brand, digital experience and content. And this is a podcast that calls time on tired ideas of luxury.
Alongside industry luminaries and thought leaders, we explore what truly defines category-leading products and services. Today I'm joined by Wayne Bruce. Wayne is the Chief Communications Officer and D&I Officer at Bentley. As well as having a deeply envious role, Wayne is also one of the nicest people I've met in the short time I've known him. Bentley is just so iconic, and it seems to be having a real glory moment at the moment. So I'm looking forward to getting into its history, its path forwards, and also your thoughts on both the luxury and automotive industries more broadly. Wayne, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Wayne, my name's Anand, and when I was at school, I used to get called an ant, which I think actually it sort of built my resilience and built my confidence. But I really hated having to introduce myself in class because I'd have to repeat myself about 3 times, and then most people would get my name wrong anyway. You have the world's best nickname, ManBat. I think it's the world's best nickname. How did that serve you at school, and when did it start?
Oh, dreadfully. When I was at school, we were all known by our surnames, and I had a lisp for a long time. So Bruce, I used to say Boof, and that wasn't great. And then I can't remember when it dawned on me that actually the Batman thing. I had a job during university working at American Express on doing telephone customer service, and it was on calls then. And I used to have to say who I was. My name's Wayne Bruce, and then you get this kind of pause. And it was on one of those calls that someone said, "Oh, Batman," backwards. And then I became, like you, sort of definitely self-conscious about it, not wanting to say my name. So I then just adopted one of my middle names. And then I got into this PR gig thingy and realised that actually having a memorable name is an advantage. And then it was a journalist who then started the ManBat thing. And it keeps popping up on Twitter every so often. Lord knows why.
Your Twitter handle is ManBat.
Yeah, I was on a call yesterday with some American colleagues. And again, it was the kind of pause and did you know? And I always say that if I had £1 for every time I was called Bruce, I'd have a garage full of Bentleys. But my parents are not to answer for.
Wayne, could you tell us a bit about your background? You've had this kind of amazing career from Car Week to VW to McLaren, Nissan, Infiniti and Bentley. Do you love cars? Did it start with a love of cars? Was it serendipitous? How did it all start?
I've just been very, very lucky. But yes, it has always been cars. I'm not entirely sure why. I'm no good with this. Please don't give me a spanner. I can't fix cars. But I've just always been really inspired by them. It's the way they look, the way they move, the design, the materials, the noise, the imagery, the brands behind them, the history, the heritage, all of this. And my mother tells me about because I was born in Hong Kong and we used to be on planes all the time. And she tells a story about how I used to play with toy cars in the aisles of the planes. And I was very lucky when I went to school. There was a car club and I was able to learn to drive from the age of 10 around some of the school fields. And I remember that my Latin teacher had a Bentley. It was a James Young S1 sports saloon. And that's where my fascination with Bentley first started. And then didn't really know what I wanted to do at university, did maths, failed dreadfully twice. And my dear father, bless him, sent me off to do diploma in international marketing. And as part of that, you had to do a work placement. And I wrote to every single car company in the UK offering my services for free. And I got positive answers from 2. I won't say the other, but one was what was then called Rolls-Royce and Bentley Motors in Crewe. So this is my second time up at Bentley. And I worked here for a couple of months in my early 20s. And I can say I've got vague memories and a lot has changed since. And I just knew I had wanted to work in cars. Without a degree, it's very difficult to get any interviews. I just saw an advert in The Guardian for a job as an editorial assistant on this new car magazine. My parents were in America at the time, and I applied for the job without telling them. And I only got the interview because I'd previously sent in a spy shot of a car on test in Arizona, which is where they were living. And again, the person interviewed me because he remembered my name.
It's quite extraordinary. So you worked at Bentley and then went full circle and came back. I mean, it's such a sort of heritage brand. It's so iconic. Were there some key changes in the sort of workplace culture that really struck you when you rejoined?
Well, yes. For starters, I remember when I was here, gosh, when must it have been? Early 90s. Women used to finish work half an hour before men. Can you guess why that might be?
Well, I hope it wasn't to put the washing on or something like that.
It was to put the tea on.
God, that's equally bad.
There were very few women working at the company back then. And today we have, across the company, the mix is around 20% and increasing. So that's one massive change. I think the company's changed a lot in the just over 4 years that I've been here. And the cars that we produce have changed massively as well. And maybe we can go into this later around the increasing trend towards personalisation. The car park here, the cars come out of the factory when I joined back in 2019 were dark blues, greys, blacks, whites. Now customers are exploring our full colour palette, and I can look out the window now, I can see there's yellows, there's even a pink car out there. Customers may be much braver and much bolder.
That's really interesting. I mean, I guess you can personalise more aspects of a Bentley today than ever before. What are some of the ways in which people do personalise their cars?
So I thoroughly recommend our car configurator. I don't know if you're into car configurators now, but it's one of my favourite pastimes. This will keep you amused for a long time because there are 46 billion different possible configurations of car that we produce in our factory. And journalists, people from the industry, people from across Volkswagen Group come and visit us here, and they can't believe how we have managed to industrialise personalisation. So you go on the configurator, and please do, and you then place your order at Jack Barclays in Mayfair, and your car should arrive in about 6 months' time. Now, if you want to have a Nant stitched into the headrest, you go to our bespoke division, who are called Mulliner, and they are the oldest surviving name in coach building, dating back to the 1700s, where they started out as a saddle maker. And the headrest for the Nant would be hand-stitched separately. Your car will be made with slave headrests and then would go across the road to then have the Nant headrest put on it, and it would only add perhaps an extra week to the process. So for some customers, those 46 billion different configurations don't give them what they want. We have 63 colours in our standard range. One of the stories we tell is of a female customer. She would commission her own nail varnish, and she wanted her Bentley to match her nail varnish. And one of our designers went to visit her and met her at a hotel and showed the design of the nails. And the designer said, well, okay, please may I take the bottle? And she said, absolutely not, that's my bottle. So she painted the designer's nails. He then came back to the factory and we managed to colour match the nails. And a few years on, that colour went into our standard range, and it's called Magenta, and it's a beautiful reddy pink. And in fact, I can see there's a Bentayga outside in that colour. But we have customers who come to the factory. We welcome hundreds here every year. Typical story is customer specifies, let's say, a relatively humble car through their retailer. They then come to the factory, see all the different options available in terms of leather, veneers, the woods we offer. We have stone veneers, and we have carbon fiber veneers, the wheel options. And another true story, an American customer was visiting the UK on holiday. His retailer arranged for us to come and visit Crewe. He'd ordered a flying spur, and he left about $500,000 the poorer because he added $100,000 of additional bespoke content to his car. His wife specified a GT convertible, and she bought a handbag.
Unbelievable. Do most people customise their cars?
You could argue creating your car from 46 billion different configurations is pretty likely to be unique in some detail, yes? It's just some customers want to go that bit further. And this trend for personalisation really has increased since the pandemic, if you can remember that. Prior to that, we would hold a level of stock in our retailers, and it's quite geographical in what customers prefer. And some of our regions, the expectation is you walk into a Bentley retailer, there's a black on black Bentayga, and you say, yes, please wrap it up, I'll take it away this afternoon. But when stock went right down, and as demand for the product went up as the world returned to relative normality, we also got bolder in the cars that we were showing ourselves in our imagery that we specified on demonstration fleets that our retailers were ordering. And we started to explore what we could offer through the factory. And customers became more excited by what they could see possible. They were able to come and see us. They enjoyed the process of commissioning the car themselves, starting with the configurator, going to see the retailer. We have designers who are constantly on aeroplanes, flying around the world, meeting customers in their homes, offices, or, as I say, hotel rooms. And the customer previously might have been worried about resale value or creating something so bespoke, so unique to them that they wouldn't be able to on-sell it. But now the feeling is, I'm doing this for myself. That the traveling is as wonderful as the arriving, i.e. ordering the car, going through the process, designing it, and then finally seeing it and then living with it is the most wonderful experience. And they come back and order additional vehicles for their fleets, going through the same thing.
Sort of like designing a piece of artwork, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. And the average price paid for our cars has increased steadily over the last few years. And it's not because we've increased our base prices, it's because customers are adding more content. We offer, for example, in the Flying Spur, which is our luxury four-door sedan, there are 3 powertrain options, but millions of different configurations of colour and trim. And this is where the price paid goes into. It's adding different colour splits of leather. It's bespoke paint. We offer duotone paint. We now offer a range of 10 satin paints, which is an increasing trend from our customers. And this is why the price of the car, of the transaction price of the car goes up. And typically, the average optional content is between 30 and 40,000 euros per car. And this is on top of a customer ticking the box for one of our derivatives. So we offer, if you want a car more geared towards well-being, you would go for one of our Azure models. If you want something more sporty, more performance-oriented, you go for an S or a Speed. And if you want the best of everything, you would then go for one of our Mulliner models. And the Mulliner package adds almost a 6-figure sum to the base price of the car. And then still on top of that, customers are enjoying going even further and exploring what is offered through the configurator and through our retailers.
How does that process work? What's the sort of handoff between digital and physical consultation?
It's completely up to the customer. Every commission, there is some human face-to-face contact. And I don't know if you've been to one of our retailers, but they're beautiful places in themselves. And part of the reason that you buy a luxury product, whether it's a car or a handbag, is the retail. And then on top of that, coming to the factory is even more the most wonderful thing. And we have 4 tour guides who spend all day walking, and they're constantly bringing guests around the factory. The majority are customers, and you have to be invited via your retailer, whether it's media, whether it's customers. The joy of actually meeting the people who work here, who handcraft your car, seeing a colour in real life is the most amazing thing. And one of the processes it's a small point, but because we have so many colours, and let's just say the sun doesn't always shine in Crewe, greens can look similar. We have 9 different greens in our standard range, and the cars now have a QR code on them as they're going through the factory. So I don't know, you've ordered your Continental in Viridian, a dark green Continental drives past, you ask the tour guide, is that Viridian? Sometimes it's not very easy to tell. So he can then scan the QR code and he can say, no, sorry, that's actually apple green or alpine green or Bonato green. And you can then say, oh, I much prefer that one. And then you can change your order if you come and see the factory before the car goes into build schedule. And then you can have the green that you've actually seen on that day.
How do you want your customers to feel when they drive a Bentley? What's the essence of the Bentley experience?
Have you ever been in a Bentley? Have you experienced a Bentley?
I have been in a Bentley, yeah.
Were you driving or were you being driven?
I wasn't. I was being driven.
I hope you felt no worse getting out of the car than you did getting into it. And you might have even felt better.
I felt slightly better, I think. I felt quite important.
Great. But there's this experience of wellness you feel whether you're driving, and the majority of our customers drive the cars themselves. It's actually very few who are driven. And it's probably, I don't know, if they're going to the airport or they're going out for dinner, they might have a driver who then takes them. But the majority of the time, they're using the car themselves. And we know for a fact that our cars do higher mileages than any other luxury cars because the customers use them every day. It's their daily driver. And the prime motivation for buying the car is the interior. And that's, of course, where you spend your time. And there is this wonderful sense of wellness that you have when you're inside the car. The smell, the tactility, the craftsmanship, when you're holding that steering wheel, it's been put together by hand by the wonderful people who work here, not by machine. The engine noise is actually a smaller influence because actually when you're driving the car, you actually hear very little. You feel just wonderfully isolated from the world around you in that sense of tranquility, but also feeling special. We talk, one of our brand truths is around a harmony of polarities, because you can be cruising to the back of a flying spur to the opera, and then the next day you could drive it to Munich and do 207 miles an hour on the Autobahn. We have a car called the Continental GT Speed, which you could quite happily drive to the supermarket. It's got over 650 horsepower and four-wheel steering, and then it will go around a track in the same way you could go around a track in a McLaren, but you wouldn't want to use a McLaren perhaps as often as you might a Bentley. Typical trend in the UK and Europe is to go more subtle on the exterior, but go wilder on the interior. And our customers think of the car as just enough luxury, because you don't necessarily want to be too conspicuous when you're going about your daily life, which you can be in a Bentley, but at the same time, you feel very special while you're doing it.
Because it feels like the automotive industry has sort of been the same for a while and now changing a lot quickly. And there's a lot of IP in engineering and a way of doing things, and I guess perception that's changing as well, and what the cars mean and how they're built, and almost every aspect of automotive design and engineering is subject to change at the moment, and that must have quite a big impact internally.
Yes, depending on who you are, change can be exciting or change can be terrifying, can't it? And as part of my role, my team looks after internal communications, and we've been putting as much resource into speaking to our 4,500 colleagues who work here as we have with the outside world, because clearly they need to be on this journey with us. Rules of internal comms is you tell your team what's happening before you tell the outside world. So before announcing Beyond 100 externally, the factory was told here about the transformations that would be happening. And I think there is absolutely an understanding that for there to be a future for Bentley and Crewe, this is absolutely necessary. So we're the biggest employer in the area, and we have colleagues who have been here for over 40 years, and they've been through, and if they've been here more than 2 decades, they've already seen a lot of change. We talk about the second breakthrough of Bentley, which was when in 1998, the company was purchased by Volkswagen. At that point, around 700 cars a year were being built in Crewe, and within a space of 4 years, that had gone up to 7,000 cars through the introduction of the first generation Continental GT. And that was when a number of new colleagues were brought into the business. And today we're doing nearly double that out of Crewe. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that, yes, change is scary, but many colleagues have seen it before and seen how great it was as a result. So yes, we were sad when the last Mulsanne was built. Yes, we'll be sad when the last W12 engine is built. But sometimes what comes next can be even better.
Do you think about what Bentley means beyond cars often?
Yes, we do. And I said it's hard to stereotype Bentley customers, and indeed it is. But I think it's fair to say that they're not necessarily car crazy like some of the other luxury car brands you might have heard of. Of course, they appreciate a beautiful car, but they also just appreciate beautiful things. cars won't necessarily be the first thing that they want to read about. We know it won't surprise you to hear that our customers are interested in travel, interested in architectural real estate, they're interested in well-being, they're interested in technology, music, they're interested in fashion, as many of us are. That doesn't make our customers unique, which is why we have been putting particular emphasis in recent times in brand extensions. We have a real estate partner in America now with more projects on the way. We have a partnership with Macallan, and it's a very authentic one with shared values. We just recently announced a jointly created whiskey. The vessel, mustn't call it a bottle, was actually designed by one of our designers. It sits horizontally as opposed to vertically because a car sits horizontally. But if you want a bottle and Ant, I think they've all gone, so you're too late. We have a partnership with Name on audio. And if you follow our story output, only about half of it is around product. The other is about people, what we're doing here around sustainability. The daily life of our bees. We've got nearly 100,000 bees working on site, producing the most delicious honey. I have to send you some.
I'd love that. In the absence of the whiskey. Wayne, what are the trends that excite you in the automotive space more broadly? And what are you a bit cynical about? Because there's a lot happening.
I'm very excited about electrification. I should have mentioned that what this is requiring for not just Bentley, but across the industry are additional skills. If you go onto the Bentley Careers website, we have almost 200 vacancies currently. So if you're interested in coming join us on our journey, please go and check it out. Have you driven an electric car?
I have, yeah.
They're great, aren't they?
They really are great. I mean, I love engines. I like going on motorbike trips. I like the sound of the engine. And hence, I was very cynical about electric cars.
Yeah.
Not for what they bring, but rather for the driving experience, for the joy of what driving itself brings, the journey, not necessarily, what the car provides functionally. And I was quite blown away, actually, by my experiences with electric cars.
There you go, you see. There's a sort of instant torque that you get when you drive the electric car, torque with a TORQE, and it's different sensations that take over. I guess what we're trying to say also in all this is that no one is telling you that you can't enjoy your V8 or your 12-cylinder Bentley in the future. You can still have, and of course our customers will have at least a couple of cars, and they'll have cars for different occasions. They're fortunate to have that. And you can still have your petrol car. And we now on site have a fuel tank for e-fuels, biofuels, and you can run your Bentley or probably any car on these much more sustainable fuels with vastly lower emissions. The only problem is that the fuel is roughly 4 times the price currently, and you can't pull into your local BP or Shell garage and fill up there. You need to have a special tank installed, and some of our customers are now doing that, and we're running the cars ourselves on it. So electrification, walking around the factory, just seeing the amazing cars that our customers are commissioning. Every day you walk around and you see something else beautiful. Another trend that is often discussed by our journalists, but not so much customers, is autonomous cars. And every few weeks there's some story in the press, isn't there, about it? Yes, it's coming. Yes, in some respects, it's already here. It's quite common for your car to be able to park itself today. You need to be there inside it, but it will sometimes not. There are some fantastic safety systems, not least on our cars, that help avoid accidents. And why wouldn't we want that? Reverse protection, even sensing for bicycles, not allowing you to open the door if there's a car coming that you can't see, blind spot detection when you're driving on motorways. All these technologies are fantastic, and they are autonomous technologies to a certain level, yes? And in the future, wouldn't it be amazing that if you're stuck in a traffic jam on the M25, you can just take your hands off the wheel and just have a snooze or whatever, and the car does the driving for you. But when you want to, you can take over and enjoy the driving yourself.
Bentley's gone through an amazing turnaround. Can you just talk us through that?
Yes. I mean, in 2018, we recorded the biggest loss in our then 99-year history. Fast forward 5 years, we recorded the biggest profit in our then 103-year history. And 3 things helped contribute to that. Firstly was sorting out the very simple certification of our cars, launching a full and complete new range, and ensuring that they could be sold in all our global markets. The second was a restructure of the company and looking at the processes here on site. And the third thing that contributed to that was the massive increase in personalization that I was talking about and the higher transaction prices for our cars. And all this is enabling us to self-finance our future. And we announced last year that through the Beyond 100 plan, we are self-financing our £3 billion investment in not just electrifying our factory here in Crewe, readying for the next generation of cars, but also in the development of the cars themselves.
The premise of this podcast is to challenge notions of luxury and what it means. What does luxury mean to you?
Spoiling yourself. I mean, luxury for me is very simple. It's when I get to go home at weekends and I go for a walk with my husband and our 2 spaniels. But I confess I do indulge myself with cars myself, and I don't need the cars I've got, but they make me happy, and I love them. And you could apply that to not just cars; it could be anything, couldn't it? It could be the sandwich that you buy yourself for lunch, or it could be spending £500,000 on a Bentley when you could equally get to the shops in a £20,000 Volkswagen Polo.
How do you think the luxury customer has changed?
We know that, and it's not just luxury, customers are increasingly more interested in the values of a brand, aren't they? Which is why we are deadly serious about becoming the most sustainable luxury mobility company. We were one of the first to become carbon neutral for production. We're about to celebrate our 5th anniversary for that. We're about to switch on our final tranche of solar panels. If you were to fly over this factory, you would not see a single piece of roof that doesn't have a solar panel on it. Indeed, half the car park is covered in solar panels. And when we switch them on, we will be generating more electricity than we actually need, and hopefully be able to send some back to Crewe. And yes, some of our customers are not interested. Some of our customers don't want to be told you have to buy an electric car, but increasingly more and more are interested, and also extremely relevant. So is the wider public, because what we absolutely don't want is a stigma to be applied to luxury cars, and they need to be, luxury cars need to be democratized in that you can be able to drive down the street. No one would ever walk down the street in a fur coat. Different but similar analogy, and Bentley drivers need to feel safe and happy to use their cars every day still.
What are Bentley's values, and how do they sort of impact your decision making?
Well, very simply, we say that Bentley is a fusion of craftsmanship, technology, and sustainability. I talked about this harmony of polarities, and we have words like we want to be known for both well-being and, when you want it, exhilaration. Craftsmanship, hugely important to us, as you'll see and touch and experience when you walk around the factory. But then so is modern technology. Bentleys are about luxury as much as they are about performance. And 2 other words we like to use is everyday extraordinary, because it's a luxury thing that you can use every day, and customers do.
You've obviously got this dual role where you focus on, externally facing communications. You also deal with internally how your brand is represented to your team. A part of your responsibility is to make sure that you have a diverse and inclusive workforce, which it's just something that I find fascinating. I'm just so interested in how dramatically the world has changed. And so, you worked at Bentley in the 90s, you've come back. Well, what are the, perhaps not even necessarily in the context of Bentley, but what are the really satisfying changes that you feel proud to have made, or that you've just seen more broadly in British workplace?
So speaking of Bentley, I'm told the catalyst for the journey we're now on around embedding diversity, equity and inclusion across the company started with an email from Cheshire East Council shortly after I arrived here, asking for sponsorship for a Pride event they wanted to have in Crewe. And we're very proud at Bentley of what we've done to support the local community. And this email came to me in my position, and I thought, okay, well, firstly, I'm a gay man and I see the value of pride. But putting myself aside in this, I just thought, well, firstly, we should support local community. Secondly, it's just the right thing to do. And thirdly, wouldn't it be great because it's an outdoor event and colleagues can go along with their families? And I remember approaching the board and my boss, the CEO, and I was so nervous about asking for approval to sponsor this event. First, because I didn't want them to think I was doing it because of me. Secondly, no one had talked about anything like this before. And I remember talking to my team about it, and they all sort of hushed and like, oh, okay, well, good luck with that. And I wanted also to wrap a car in the pride flag to go with it as a literal vehicle. I mean, not clever, just obvious. And I asked, is that okay? And the answer I got back was, yeah, why are you even asking? Just crack on. And then that led to some colleagues to literally out themselves to me. In fact, saying, I can't believe you've managed to make this happen. We've been trying for ages to get people to listen to us. And now we're doing this. And that led to the founding of the first colleague network, which was called Be Proud. We then included in the Beyond 100 strategy some quantifiable targets around diversity for both women in our workforce, but also ethnicity. And we're doing very well towards those targets. So this is literally in black and white on our website that we intend to meet these goals. We now have 5 colleague networks, of which about 500 colleagues are now actively participating either as members of the networks or as allies. We hold monthly extraordinary talks. Just last week, I interviewed the author Candice Braithwaite, and we do this regularly. We attend not just Pride events, we work with Attitude magazine, we empowered the list of 101 LGBTQ trailblazers for the 3rd year running. And if you follow us on LinkedIn, we talk about what we're doing at least once a month through our external channels. And this comes back to what we were saying about how perceptions of customers are changing. Now, this has led to some customers saying, have my car back. I'm not driving a gay car.
Wow.
Fine. Okay. Thank you. We'll take your car back. There'll be somebody else who wants it. And you can't bring everyone along on this journey, but that doesn't stop us feeling absolutely it's the right thing to do. And it's not just for external perception. It's about what's going on here in Crewe as well. And we have a simple motto of inform, include, improve.
How satisfying.
We made the mistake perhaps initially about talking too much about diversity, which alienated the majority of our colleagues. We then talked more about inclusion, and that's when we brought out the second DEI car, which was designed by one of our in-house designers. It was called the Unifying Spur, and that started to resonate more. But the word inclusion isn't the most obvious to understand. And we then hit along. We like words beginning with B at Bentley, so we then started talking about belonging, and we all want to belong, and this is now really working as a message. So hashtag belonging at Bentley. You'll see that in much more of our not just you won't see our internal communication, but externally as well. We talk about belonging at Bentley, and we recently revealed our 3rd DEI car, which is called the Belonging Bentayga, and we worked on this with an external artist that we went to a long list of names from our networks and settled on an amazing man called Stephen Wiltshire, who paints cityscapes from memory. And he came up to the factory last year, spent 2 days just painting 29 different global landmarks on this car. And the car was then exhibited at Art Basel. We now have literal, I call stunt doubles, so wrapped versions of the same, and then being used at events, being driven by influencers, and just spreading the good message of belonging at Bentley.
Amazing. Where do you see the brand in sort of 10 years?
The leader in sustainable luxury mobility and still building cars in Crewe.
Okay, what concerns you about the world that we're leaving the next generation?
That there'll still be a world.
Fair enough. I agree with you on that. If you had to give up your job tomorrow, completely change direction, what do you think you'd do?
If I didn't work for a living, I know exactly what I do. So I'm a trustee for one of the trustees for the British Motor Museum, just halfway up the M40, and it's the most wonderful, wonderful place. And if I didn't have to work for a living, I would volunteer there every day because it's just so special and act as a tour guide there.
And what's the thing that most excites you that you can see on the horizon in the next 5 years?
being fully carbon neutral here at Bentley with a fully electrified range of luxury cars.
That's a wonderful place to end. Wayne, thank you so much. It's been so interesting talking to you about Bentley. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anand. It's been lovely talking to you as well. And you must come and visit us in Crewe, please. It's less than 2 hours by train from London.
I will do for sure. Thanks.
Thanks so much for listening. This has been What the Luxe. You can find us on socials at Matter of Form and drop us any questions or comments on Twitter using the hashtag #WhatTheLuxe. And if you're a luxury brand looking for strategy or design that goes beyond the banal, get in touch via hello@matterofform.com and chat to one of our consultants. And so, until next time.